40 days ago, we celebrated a joyful feast of Christmas, the birth of Jesus. 40 days after Christmas, that is today, we recall the day on which the Lord Jesus was presented by his parents, Mary and Joseph, in the temple. My dear brothers and sisters, today we celebrate the beautiful feast of the presentation of Jesus in the temple. The fourth joyful mystery of the Rosary is the presentation. The Mass that we are celebrating today is popularly known as the Candle Mass because of the blessing and the procession of candles. When we tried to recall meeting the Lord as he comes, like Simeon, who acclaimed Jesus as the light to enlighten the Gentiles. My dear brothers and sisters, the presentation of Jesus in the temple is part of an ancient Jewish practice that is faithfully observed after the birth of every firstborn male in the family. There are three important rituals that are involved here. The first is the circumcision of the child. The second is the purification of the mother after childbirth. And the third is the presentation of the child in the temple. The law of Moses requires that every firstborn male, whether man or beast, belongs to the Lord. That is why every firstborn male is considered sacred. Jesus, a firstborn male, belongs to God. And this is the reason why he was presented by his parents in the temple. The point is that whatever came from God or whoever came from God must be returned to God. He must be offered to God because the best should always go to God. The best belongs to God. During the time of the Lord, the Jews also offered the best in the temple, like holocausts and sacrifices, like tithes and contributions. And every special offering they have vowed to God. They consecrated to the Lord the first male firstlings of their flocks, the first produce of their lands, the firstborn son, whom they would redeem with an offering, believing what the book of Exodus in the Old Testament says, and I quote, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whatever is the first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both of man and of beast, is mine." So the feast today reveals that Mary and Joseph are devout Jews who remain faithful to the religious traditions of the Jewish people. They faithfully observe the law of offering by bringing the child Jesus in the temple. Unknown to many then, what Mary and Joseph offered is actually the best possible offering any parent could ever present. Jesus is at his best in the unconventional notion of what is best. He is little yet powerful. He is poor yet enriching many. Similarly, the best of ourselves is not necessarily based on our usual standard of what is best. When we present ourselves to God, when we offer ourselves to others, we do not need to be sinless or undefiled. We do not need to be unblemished or flawless, almost the perfect person that we want to be, because we can never be. Otherwise, we would not be able to present ourselves to God at all. I remember an anonymous writer who said, "Life does not require that you be the best, but that you just do your best." My dear brothers and sisters, the best of who we are will include our weaknesses and our sinfulness. We are creatures with our own share of limitations, our inadequacies, our incompleteness, because our holiness lies in our incompleteness. Our holiness lies in our weakness. Holiness is not necessarily achieving perfection. On the contrary, holiness is more and more accepting myself as I am now, including my past, all that made up my life, everything that hurt me, everything that hindered my growth, that I ought to accept the reality of my past now. And so today, the feast teaches us to strive to offer ourselves to God in spite of our imperfections, our limitations and weaknesses. Because after all, in our weaknesses and imperfections, God still loves us. Let us just see to it that we offer the best of ourselves to God, because God always deserves the best. And I have my final point. My dear parents, my dear families, every child, every human life is a gift from God. Every human being is precious and priceless. Of all God's beautiful gifts, there is none of which we shall be completely answerable as the gift of life. A child is simply borrowed from God. A child is simply lent by God to his parents. God owns everybody. God owns everything created and uncreated, visible and invisible. I remember St. Paul who said, "If we live for the Lord. If we die for the Lord." That is why whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. When I woke up this morning, I tried to pray the beautiful prayer of St. Ignatius of Loyola that I always like to pray when we celebrate the feast of the Lord's presentation. I'm sure you are familiar with the prayer because it has been transformed into a song. The prayer goes like this: "Kunin mo, O Diyos, at tanggapin mo ang aking kalayaan, ang aking kalooban, ang isip at gunita ko. Lahat ng hawak ko, lahat ng loob ko, lahat ay aking alay sa iyo. Mula sa iyo ang lahat ng ito, muli kong handog sa iyo, patnubayan mo't paghari ang lahat ayon sa kalooban mo. Mag-utos ka, Panginoon ko, dagling tatalima ako, ipagkaloob mo lamang ang pag-ibig mo, ang lahat ay tatalikdan ko." Amen.